So, New York public officials criticized DeSantis for voting against Hurricane Sandy relief. That's DeSantis right there, current governor of Florida, where Hurricane Ian just wreaked havoc down in Fort Myers and other parts such as Orlando and so forth. Total, lots of devastation. Boats removed from the bay, way inland, even with part of the dock it was hooked up to. It just ripped it. That's the force of that hurricane. Anyway, so here's the deal. As Hurricane Ian pummeled Florida on Wednesday, several public officials from New York criticized Florida Governor DeSantis for voting against federal aid for Hurricane Sandy when he was a congressman. Just a reminder to New York, Marco Rubio, right, who was a senator, U.S. senator from Florida, and Ron DeSantis, who was in Congress at the time, voted against aid for Hurricane Sandy. Eileen Newell, a member of the New York State Assembly, said on Twitter, "But because we are in New York, we care about everyone, even when they don't care about us." Newly elected to Congress in 2013, DeSantis voted against a federal relief package for New York and New Jersey in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. Sandy hit the northeast and mid-Atlantic states in late 2012. Yeah, that was around October 30th. Yeah, about another month from now. Killing more than 100 Americans. Senator Marco Rubio, Republican Florida, also voted against the hurricane relief in 2013, as Tristan Snell, a former Assistant Attorney General from New York, noted. Marco Rubio voted against federal aid for the victims of Hurricane Sandy because it mostly affected the blue states of New Jersey and New York. Snell wrote in a tweet, "I fully support whatever federal aid is needed for Florida for Hurricane Ian because it affects America." Republicans at the time of the vote in the House had argued the measure was costly and should be offset with spending cuts. The final House vote was 241 to 180, with 179 of the no votes coming from the GOP, which are the Republicans. It led to sore feelings at the time from lawmakers serving the region at the time. It is unfortunate that we had to fight so hard to be treated the same as every other state has been treated. Former Representative Peter King, Republican, New York, told the New York Times in January 2013, "Since the fight, there has been criticism of GOP lawmakers who have pressed for aid for their states because of their votes against the Sandy aid. After Hurricane Harvey hit Texas hard in 2017, for example, some Democrats from New York and New Jersey took shots at Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, and other Republicans from the Lone Star State who had opposed the Sandy legislation. DeSantis asked President Biden on Wednesday to approve a major disaster declaration over Hurricane Ian and to cover the cost of debris removal and emergency protective services for the first 60 days after the hurricane. Biden covered similar costs for Kentucky after it faced devastating floods earlier this year. Yeah, and Kentucky had another senator, Ron Paul. He also voted against. He said no, it's too costly. However, Snell pointed to the discrepancy between DeSantis' relief request and his voting record, urging Floridians to elect new leaders in the upcoming midterm elections. Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio voted against help for the victims of Hurricane Sandy, he added on Thursday. What absolute hypocrites! Florida should get all the help it needs, but Florida also deserves better leaders. DeSantis, who is seen as a potential 2024 presidential candidate, has ratcheted up his rivalry with the Biden administration in recent weeks. The Florida governor flew a group of Texas migrants to Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, early this month, joining other Republican governors in protesting Biden's immigration policies. However, DeSantis and Biden appeared to put aside their political differences this week as they responded to Hurricane Ian. Okay, so I remember Hurricane Sandy because I did some work for the New York City Medical Corps group. They had they opened, it was like a shelter to put people. There were lots of beds, food, the type of food you see in the army, where you're out in the field in the army and it's ready made and you pull it open and it by pulling it open it warms up, it has that chemical to warm it up, heat it up and so forth. They had all that stuff. Yeah. So it really devastated parts of New York City at that time. Many people couldn't even stay in the apartments, like down in Coney Island, areas like that near the Atlantic Ocean, flooded out. Hospital, Coney Island Hospital, there were nursing homes in that area. They had to remove some of the people out, put them in, I remember they put some in Brooklyn Technical High School. They brought some of the residents from the nursing home down there, Coney Island. The subways, some of the subways were shut down one particular day. No subways were running. Also, on the R line, the tube that takes the R train between Manhattan and Brooklyn, that was destroyed. The water coming in from the bay, which is right where Salt Ferry is, because the R comes in right there, down that area right there. That water came all the way up to the ceiling. They had to replace those wires. All that took a long time, so the R train was out for a while. I think they were running it in two parts. One part in Manhattan, one part in Brooklyn for a while. So it was really tough. The F train too wasn't affected as bad, but they did have to do some work in the F train and the tubes because the water that got into the tunnels was really, really high. So we suffered some catastrophic losses. Also, homes, businesses, some people lost their homes. It was really a calamity, But what gets me is you have some of these politicians in these red states or these conservative states or Republican states. Every time something happens, let's say in areas where they don't share the same politics, they worry about the cost. They say, oh, this is too costly, or you asking for money that you really don't need. You're gonna get that money and then you're gonna do other stuff with it. But when something happens like flooding, and they get a lot of stuff that happens in their states, like tornadoes, hurricane, sometimes maybe earthquakes. So there are a lot of stuff that goes on in some of these states. And they're the first ones to ask for help. And when they ask for help, they don't think of the costs. They don't say, oh, it's too costly, or the way we can do it is, yeah, we could spend, but we can make cuts. And this is what they were saying. And in order for New York to get any help, they say, well, first you have to cut this program, and you have to cut this, you have to cut money out of the budget before we give you any money for like Hurricane Sandy relief, So these people, this is how they are. This is why, it's really shocking to me that these people are set, and when I say these people, I mean the Republicans, they're set to win back the House. I mean, what are they really doing for the American people? They're set to win back the House because if they were controlling, the House right now, and let's say that hurricane had hit some state, like let's say maybe New York or Maryland or so forth, they wouldn't care. They would be saying, okay, yeah, you can get some money, but first we got to cut out budget for this, we got to cut out this, maybe we got to cut out money from food stamps, stuff like that, So we make some people go hungry to help people fix up for relief. This is how they are. But when something goes wrong in their state, whether it's flooding, tornadoes, they never talk about, okay, yeah, we'll make some cuts here, we'll cut this budget so you can get some money, for relief. They don't think like that. So they're beyond hypocritical, and it shows that they're very selfish people. They only think for themselves. You see, what's good for them. Not to say like what's good for the goose is good for the gander. No, they don't believe in that. They believe only that what should benefit them, that's what's paramount. Nothing else matters to them. And it's a shame that we live in a country where instead of having common values, this is the way some of these people are. And these are the people first to tell you that they go to church on Sunday, and read in the Bible. One of these days, that Bible might catch a fire in their hands. And fire and brimstone might come down on their churches and burn them down.